Living in Sunnyside Estates wasn't my first choice, but the location was perfect for my commute and the walking trails provided an ideal environment for Maverick, my service dog. Maverick is a beautiful golden retriever who helps me manage my PTSD episodes after my military service overseas. He's incredibly well trained, always wears his service vest when we're out, and follows commands perfectly. I know the Americans with disabilities act like the back of my hand. It's important when you rely on a service animal, but I never imagined I'd need to cite federal law to my HOA president. The first time I met Karen Whitfield, she was carrying a clipboard and wearing a scowl that seemed permanently etched onto her face. She introduced herself as the president of the HOA with a tone that suggested I should be impressed. "I don't believe I approved a dog in this community," she said with narrowed eyes, looking down at Maverick who was sitting perfectly still beside me. I politely explained that Maverick was a service dog, not a pet, and therefore exempt from pet restrictions under federal law. She huffed, muttered something about people always finding loopholes, and walked away. I should have recognized the warning signs right then. Over the next few weeks, the passive-aggressive notices began arriving. First, she claimed my grass was an inch too tall, then that my mailbox was the wrong shade of black, and finally that my garbage can had been visible from the street for 45 minutes after collection. Each letter bore Karen's ornate signature, complete with a smiley face that somehow managed to feel more like a threat than a courtesy. I complied with her demands, not wanting to create unnecessary tension, but something in my gut told me these petty violations were just the beginning of a bigger problem. My instincts were right. At the next HOA meeting, Karen introduced a new motion requiring all animals, including service animals, to be registered with the HOA and to wear community-approved identification tags. I raised my hand, calmly pointing out that this directly violated the Americans with Disabilities Act, but she interrupted mid-sentence. "Federal laws don't override community standards," she snapped, earning a few awkward glances from the board members. No one dared to challenge her. After the meeting, she approached me, leaned in close and whispered, "If you want to be difficult, I can be difficult too." Her tone was low and sharp, laced with something far more dangerous than simple frustration. The following weekend, I was enjoying a peaceful morning on my front porch with Maverick resting at my feet. I was reading the newspaper when a shadow fell across my lawn. Karen stood there in her signature khaki shorts and polo shirt holding a spray bottle. "Your dog is violating the new pet ordinance by not having proper HOA identification," she said loudly enough for my neighbors to hear. I calmly reminded her that Maverick was a service dog protected by federal law and that the HOA couldn't legally require special identification. "Besides," I added, "that rule hasn't even been officially implemented yet." Her face turned an alarming shade of red. "I'm tired of you military types thinking you're above the rules," she spat out, advancing toward my yard. "If you won't comply, I'll handle this myself." Before I could react, she aimed her spray bottle at Maverick and sprayed him directly in the face with some kind of liquid. Maverick yelped and stumbled backward, pawing desperately at his eyes. My heart lurched. I moved between them and demanded to know what she had sprayed. "Just a little vinegar and water," she said smugly. "It won't hurt him, but maybe now he'll learn to respect authority." My military training kicked in, keeping me calm even as my blood boiled. I brought Maverick inside, rinsed his eyes carefully, and called the police. Interfering with a service animal is a federal offense, and I wanted it on record. When the officers arrived 20 minutes later, they were professional and attentive. I provided Maverick's documentation, explained what had happened, and pointed to Karen's house across the street. One officer went to speak with her, while the other took my statement. Through the window, I could see her gesturing wildly, her face twisted with fury. The officer's unimpressed expression told me everything I needed to know. When they returned, they informed me that she had admitted to spraying Maverick but claimed she was enforcing community standards. That line didn't work this time. They told her that interfering with a service animal was a serious federal violation and that her actions also qualified as animal cruelty under state law. Karen was arrested right there in front of the neighborhood. As the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, she shouted threats about having me evicted and warned that the whole community would turn against me. Instead, my neighbors watched silently. One woman whispered, "She's finally gone too far." Another approached afterward, apologizing for not standing up at the meeting. "We've all been scared of her," she admitted, glancing down at Maverick, who was once again calm and composed, as if the chaos hadn't touched him at all. The case moved quickly. Karen was charged with interference with a service animal, animal cruelty, and harassment. Her court appearances became neighborhood gossip. She arrived in designer clothes with an expensive lawyer, but even he couldn't argue with the evidence: security footage, police reports, witness statements, and federal law. The judge made it clear: community rules never supersede disability rights. Karen's arrogance melted into disbelief as she realized she was facing real consequences for the first time in her life.
Before the trial, Ev